We'll go ahead and bring the November 3rd, 2022 Board of Adjustment meeting to order. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Clay Thomas.
Here.
Rob Pierce.
Here.
Kathy Julian.
Here.
Brad Stanley.
Here.
Don Christensen is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Large, the ethics law announcement, please.
Board members are reminded that with respect to any matter or any person coming before the board today, you have received a gift or a loan, you have a pecuniary interest, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship, or you provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered. You must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. You must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it is clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Board members are also reminded that under the Board of Adjustment rules, if you had any contact outside this meeting with any person interested in a matter coming before the board today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Lloyd, the appeal procedure, please.
All right. Most decisions rendered by the Board of Adjustment are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Board of Adjustment and qualify as an aggrieved person or party, you may appeal in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed with the Secretary of the Board of Adjustment, and mailed to the original applicant, and the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and the application fee.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, would you please reflect that Mr. Christensen is present?
Yes, for the record, Don Christensen is present for our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is on the agenda is public comment. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the agenda. However, actions may not be taken on any matter raised during the public comment period until the matter is specifically listed on the agenda as an action item. Comments are to be made to the Board of Adjustment as a whole. Madam Secretaries, do we have anyone wishing to speak at this time?
I have no public comment in chambers.
I do have a hand raised via Zoom. Laura Hill, if you could please unmute yourself and state your first and last name for the record.
Can you hear me okay? This is Laura Hill-Temmerman.
Yes, the floor is yours.
My name is Laura Hill-Temmerman, and I'm speaking today because I oppose moving forward with the terracotta well sites and issuing the permit. I am part of the Callahan neighborhood. I'll briefly outline my concerns. NRS 278.020 states that the county's regulations and decisions, quote, must take into account the potential impairment of natural resources and the total population which the available natural resources will support without unreasonable impairment, end quote. And NRS 278.250 states that zoning regulations and decisions by the county must be, quote, designed to preserve the quality of air and water resources, to promote the conservation of open space, and the protection of other natural and scenic resources from unreasonable impairment. These are part of your responsibilities and commitments to uphold to us, the citizens of Washoe County. I fear your legacy to the future generations of Washoe County, our children and grandchildren, is going to be your failure to protect us and preserve the well-being of our communities, our land, and our resources. The basis for the planning and development decisions is outdated. Since 2006, we've seen catastrophic fires such as the Dixie, Caldor, Hawken, and Coughlin fires, to name only a few. The recent fires are hotter and move faster, risking the lives of our communities and first responders. We have seen a failure of the Colorado River Basin and the Great Salt Lake. We have diminishing groundwater and surface water. Our water source is not immune to the fact that all water sources are decreasing. In July of this year, the nonprofit Climate Center announced that Reno's summertime temperatures are averaging 10 degrees warmer than they were in 1970. This makes Reno the fastest warming city in the United States. What exacerbates this? More cement, more asphalt, and less open land. The world has lost 60% of its biodiversity. Reno is not exempt for this. Even without further developments, we have seen a greater impact on traffic and infrastructure in the Mount Rose Highway and the Callahan Ranch area than was previously anticipated. We have diminishing snowpack, both in terms of presence only at higher elevations and not lasting as long anymore. You are planning for more while the resources are diminishing. The acceleration of these decreases isn't being factored into the data modeling that researchers and experts are showing us to be our reality. You have a duty to protect the welfare and well-being of our community. The increasing number of developments is using what few precious resources we have left, such that we will soon be left with nothing. Is this what you want your legacy to be? That will be next on the list for being without water or no longer sustainable. Now is the time to pause, stop, and course correct. I therefore oppose the moving forward with the permitting for the terracotta well sites.
Thank you. And I have no further hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you.
If I may, this is Recording Secretary Lacey Kerfoot. Just housekeeping. I have a few folks that filled out a public comment card that didn't list the item in the upper right-hand corner. Karen, Becky, and Michael, if you can come see me, just so I know which item you'd like to speak for. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, is there any more public comment at this time?
No further public comment.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to approve the November 3rd, 2022 agenda. First of all, is there any discussion on this matter? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Rob for the record. I move that we accept it as written.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Mr. Stanley seconds. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is approval of the October 6, 2022 draft minutes. Again, is there any discussion on this agenda item? Mr. Stanley?
On page 9 of the minutes, I think there, in the motion, there's the word on the second line from the bottom, seized, S-E-I-Z-E-D, and I think that was supposed to have been ceased, would have been my guess.
Yes, I don't think we need to seize the construction.
I think they have enough
Need
trouble.
to have it seized. If we
Yep.
can make note of that and have that correction made.
Okay, noted for page 9. Thank you.
Thank you. Any,
One
go ahead,
more,
Mr.
if I may,
Stanley.
of a similar notion. Also, in the motion, minor thing, member Julian moved. I think that has an E-D on it, required.
And which one was that? If you can reference
Sorry,
the
on
page.
page 11, on the motion. I think we needed, it needs to be moved, not move.
Just add-
Noted as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion on the draft minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as noted by the changes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes as modified.
Thank you very much. Second?
This is Rob for the record. I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item up on the agenda is variance case number WPVAR 22-0004, rushing variance. And I believe we have staff planner Oakley that is going to present on this. I don't think the mic is.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kat Oakley, Washoe County Planning. So for this variance case, the rushing variance, the applicant is on Zoom is going to request to continue it for 2 months to the January 5th hearing. This is because we believe we have found a route for this applicant that doesn't involve a variance. They're going to pursue that and want to attempt to get approval through that route, and therefore want to delay the variance to have it in case they end up needing it, but hopefully to get approval through this other process.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present and wish to speak on this matter?
The applicant is present. Philip Gillenfarb, you could please state your first and last name for the record.
Yes, Philip Gillenfarb, architect and representative for the owner of this property. Chair Thomas and members, I appreciate that. I know that this has come to your agenda before, and I apologize. It's been a complicated variance, primarily because we're trying to maintain a somewhat historic structure in Crystal Bay, and we've been just kind of working with staff and grateful for their attendance and their attention to this. We're going to request a 2-month continuance so that we can review the opportunity for an administrative review permit and see if that is something that will work. And staff has graciously found that opportunity for us, and we're hoping it will work and we can take this off the agenda. But if it doesn't, we'd like to stay in the continuance so that we can come back to you in a couple of months and bring it back if necessary.
Okay, thank you for that. So what you're asking for is the variance for a continuance for 2 months. So you would be before the board possibly in January, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. With that, is there any public comment on this item, on this agenda item?
I have no public comment in chambers.
Thank you.
And I have no hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you. Mr. Large, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, I believe we do not need to make a motion and vote on this. Is this correct? We can just accept.
We do not. At this point, at this juncture, because the applicant is requesting a 2-month delay, we can put it on the July or the January agenda.
Thank you. We will go ahead and do that. That is acceptable. The next item on the agenda, administrative permit case number WADMIN 22-0021, May Doyle Garage. And we have Ms. Olander who will present.
Good afternoon, Board. Julie Olander with Planning and Building for the record. So this is an administrative permit. For a detached accessory structure of 2,400 square feet that is larger than the main residence, which is 1,558 feet. And per code, an administrative permit is required. Yes, now I'm turned on. Okay. No? Yep. Okay. The parcel has a regulatory zoning of medium density suburban, MDS, and the proposed structure will meet the medium MDS setbacks of 20 feet in the front and 8 feet on the sides, and the height restriction is 35 feet, which it will meet. The allowed lot coverage for MDS footprint is 50%, and the total square footage of the existing and the proposed building is 3,958 square feet, which is approximately 27% of the 14,723 square foot lot. The applicant indicates that the structure will be used for a garage to store an RV, boat, and other vehicles, and they are proposing a breezeway that will connect the garage to the house. Per Washoe County Code, the breezeway is not considered habitable space, and it does not create an attached structure. The structure will have electricity, however, it will not have plumbing connections, and the paint will match the existing house. Here is a layout of the house and the structure. The house is the bottom of the screen. The breezeway is in between the two structures. And then you can see the proposed 2,400 square foot garage. And then these are elevations. Various agencies have reviewed the application, and their comments are included in the staff report, and any that had conditions are included in the conditions of approval. Oops. No neighborhood meeting was required for this residential permit, this residential request, and 79 parcels were noticed. I did not receive any emails or phone calls concerning this application. And then we noticed within 500 feet of the site. Staff can make the findings of consistency, improvements, suit siteability, issuance not detrimental, and there is no military installation in the vicinity. I provide a possible motion. I believe the applicant is either in the building or, yes, and he's available for questions. He doesn't not have a presentation, and I'm available for questions also. Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff? Yes, Ms. Julian.
My first question is on, you mentioned that there was no emails or letters received, but I'm looking at something attached to this Exhibit
I
E,
apologize.
and it is critical of the project. Okay, so that was, just to clarify, there was
Okay.
that. Okay. And then secondly, you mentioned that the structure will be painted the same color of the house, but that is not in the conditions.
It can be added.
Could that be put into the
If you need that
condition?
added, yeah, it can be added. Typically, it's just, I mean, I can add that to the conditions if you would like that in there.
What I find helpful is if I read it in the staff report that it is going to happen,
I can
it
do
would be
that.
good to have that then in the conditions. And it was something mentioned by the conservation
Right. The
area.
Yeah, Stark
And they
County.
also mention about landscaping, but in the application from the property owner, they only reference that large trees existing will cover the shop. Will there or will there not be any landscaping that is added to this project?
We don't have a code requirement that makes the resident add landscaping. If that's something that it's appropriate, then we can ask for that. It is a residential property that has landscaping already on it to some degree.
Okay. Well,
You can
it
ask the
seems,
applicant, if you, I mean, that's something we can ask for, additional landscaping. However, it's not something that we require on residential properties. We don't have a landscaping requirement for residential properties.
but under your staff comment, you say the structure will be painted to match the main residence and landscaping will be added around the structure.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So
I
again,
apologize, yes.
I like
see what
to
you're
see
saying.
the
I'm sorry for
yes,
that.
the
I
consistency
misunderstood what you-
between the
Okay, one at a
staff
time,
report and
please.
what happens, yes. Okay, okay, great. That was that question. And the application says it'll be used for 6 to 10 vehicles. Should there be any commercial use of this property, they would need to get another license or some other clearance for that, right? If they were to be using it for storage, paid storage or something like that, they would need to get some sort of approval?
Julie Olander, for the record, they cannot store vehicles on their property that are not registered to them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Are there any more questions for staff? Seeing none, the applicant is present. That's correct, right? Sir, can I have you come to the podium for a minute? I have a couple questions for you. Do you have a presentation you wish to give the board?
I do not. The statement, well, the cause of the building is currently I'm spending between $9,000 and $10,000 a year in storage facilities between my motorhome, boats. And when it qualifies as 9 vehicles, we're talking about side-by-sides and motorcycles. And I'm an avid car collector that, I have a shop here in town building cars for me. I just need a place to store them. So currently it's just not cost effective to keep giving $10,000 away without utilizing my own property.
And while I have you present, Madam Secretary, and I don't know if you can do this for me, but Exhibit D, page 24, kind of gives a schematic of what this gentleman would like to do on the property. Can we pull that up? Do we have access to that?
Yes, one moment, please.
Thank you. While that's being done, maybe a point of clarification, but when I looked at the building and the size of the building, it shows, if I got this correct, and maybe you can clarify it for me or educate me on this, but it appears that the apex of the roof for this facility is set at 24 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Chair Thomas, in Exhibit D, what page was it?
On mine, it's page 24.
Of the staff report. Okay. Yeah.
Or 22, which either one you want to, page 22 or 24, they seem to be the same, more or less. Thank you.
Apologies, I was trying to see if I could turn it, but I don't believe I can.
Okay. If the applicant can show me where, is this going to be a 2-car garage, a 4-car garage?
It's going to be a RV access, boat, and then side-by-sides in the front. And the access will be, it will be
Yeah.
from the west side.
I think we have a pointer there on the table. If you can point that out to me of where the garage doors will be, how you will be able to get your vehicles and everything in and out.
It's not a
So
gray.
access will be, this will be where the garage door is, and this will be all concrete, and it'll be coming from the front of my house right here.
So you'll have one access door?
Correct. One garage door there. There'll be a few windows here as per planned. On the east side, there'll be 3 windows for sunlight. On the north side, I'll have no windows. And then through the breezeway here will be what we commonly call a patio window. We're just using this as a patio cover to go back and forth from the garage to the house.
Okay. And according to the plan here, so then at the narrowest point will be 20 feet, about 20 feet 6 inches from the fence to the corner of the garage there. So you'll have about, I don't know, 22 feet, I guess, to move in and out, move your
Yes, sir.
your trailers and everything in and out.
And that's backing them in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, I think that answers my questions.
And if I could add, my wife does landscape architecture, and we purchased a home 2 years ago. And unfortunately, the COVID took the cost of the shop through the roof, so we concentrated on the front of the property. We've removed all that and replaced all the landscaping, which we plan on tying the front of the landscaping into our home. And the additional space behind the garage is going to be a greenhouse. My wife's an avid gardener, so it's going to be really nice.
And just one last question from me. Did you contact your neighbors that abut your property or anywhere in the area and just have this discussion about building a garage with them?
Yes, sir. I'm fortunate to live in a court, and that particular part of the court is kind of when you come into a court, it has a odd little curlicue, so it's kind of like you don't even see our house because of the trees. But we have, young children, a lot of educators in the neighborhood. We're all friendly and talk, and a few people even from maybe a block away have come up and go, "Hey, Mike, I see you're going to put a shop in your backyard," and I'd bring them through the back and show them how it's going to be and where it's at. And they seem to be pretty like, "Oh, great, it's awesome." We have a really great neighborhood. I feel fortunate.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for this gentleman? Seeing none, thank you. We'll go ahead and close that. Madam Secretary, is there any public comment on this item?
I have no hands raised via Zoom.
Yes, I do have some public comment in chambers. Mr. Doyle, did you want to provide public comment?
No, I didn't know the process.
Okay.
My wife.
Not a problem. Becky Doyle, would you like to provide public comment? Okay. Thank you. I have Bill Hecht. I may not have said that correctly. If you could just state it at the podium when you get up there, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Hecht. I'm not an adjacent neighbor. I can see the property from my front door. This is basically a two-story building. I estimate to be about 8 feet taller than the existing house and the surrounding houses, which are all single-story. There are 6 neighboring properties that touch on this property line, several with backyard patios facing the proposed structure. It would dominate the skyline and the view. The structure would nearly fill the backyard, as you can see, and the plan indicates a paved driveway surrounding it, extending to the property line. Stormwater runoff has to be an issue for the neighbors, and only the word swale is used on the architectural drawing, with no detail as to what that amounts to or what it does. No gutters or drains are shown, and I cannot tell what the grade is. The drawing calls for 7 lighting fixtures around the structure, and this is an issue for immediate neighbors and for the neighborhood, which was originally constructed with minimal lighting to preserve the dark sky. I think the structure is inappropriate and out of place for the property and for the community. It's kind of a massive building. It's designated as storage in the Eagle Canyon subdivision. These are generally backyard sheds. It is difficult to describe how this building might look and function, but it feels like a backyard commercial warehouse. I ask that the application be rejected, being a nuisance to neighbors and incompatible with the character of the subdivision. I really don't want to be here today, but I wrote the letter, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further public comment in chambers.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion on this item? Ms. Christian?
Yes. Mr. Hecht's comment, the written letter, indicated a carbon copy to an HOA. Is this particular project conditioned by CC&Rs or bylaws of the Eagle, I lost it, Eagle Canyon? Yes.
If you can come back to the, are you asking a question? You want clarification?
That's the question. Oh, I
Thank
see
you.
nothing in the packet from the HOA.
If you'll state your name again and.
Mike Doyle.
Thank you.
And Mr. Doyle, can you speak up?
Sure. No,
Deaf as that
I'm
board.
with you. Absolutely. Part of the process before we even move forward with the building or our landscaping was get approval to our HOA. And that coincided with color matching and all this. So as a preliminary architectural design, we delivered that to our HOA. There was a 3-month process to get approval. Then we moved forward with the architectural design and engineering.
Okay, and for the record, who is the community manager, the company, for that HOA?
You know, I apologize. I do not have an answer. We do have a letter of approval from that HOA. It should be part of
Just curious.
the process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Julian?
Yes, I sympathize with Mr. Hecht's comments here, and as such, I'm wondering if I may ask staff again about the lights. Is it typical to have this many lights on a structure, on a garage? And is that something which could have been conditioned to have perhaps fewer lights? Or is there a rationale for the 7 lights that are there?
Julie Olander with Planning and Building for the record. We don't regulate how many lights a residence has to have. They have to be down shielded and the light can't cross property lines. So that's the extent of what residential properties require.
Okay. Okay, and on the issue of, on going back again to the Conservation District comment, and I realize they're not a regulatory agency, but I was wondering if the staff could address this recommendation of a 3 to 4 inch rock in the flow line, I guess, of the swale to minimize transport of sediment. Is there any discussion on that? Was that considered? Is that part of it?
Julie Olander for the record with Planning and Building. That would be something that our engineering department would address. I don't believe that they had anything that addressed that. So from their perspective, that was not necessary. And again, as you know, the Story Conservation District, they are just, it's their comments to us. We don't have any way to enforce those items unless we have code that enforces some of the things they are requesting.
But do you ever investigate those items to see whether they have, did anyone mention that to the engineering department to say, what do you think about this comment?
I did not have that exact conversation with them, no.
Okay. Okay, and going back to the, in terms of discussion, I would support conditions that explicitly state the color of the roof and perhaps even a non-reflective roof. I'm not sure how they worded it. In another case, there was some reference to a non-reflective roof. And then also the color of the building and some landscaping to be added, as was suggested would be done in the staff report.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Stanley?
Just a quick question for Planner Olander. Julie, regarding lighting, haven't we addressed that in the past typically by saying that lighting must be dark sky compliant, downward, and so forth?
Julie Olander for the record. So this is in this, I would have to do a little, we can say that. However, the lights have to be down. This is residential. That's primarily something we'd see in more commercial buildings, so that we state that. Residences typically have down-shielded lighting, and if it crosses the property lines, that it's not supposed to cross property lines. So, I mean, if you want to limit the lighting on this property, you're more than welcome to condition it and just say, you know, I mean, I don't feel like you have to reinstate what's already in code, but if you want to say something exceptional, that you're going to limit the lighting to 4 fixtures or something like that, you know, that's something that you have you have the ability to do.
So if I may, from my understanding then, what I'm hearing you say is dark sky compliant is usually what we use for commercial, and this actually sounds stricter in terms of the light being confined to the property line and so forth than even dark sky compliant. Would that be
That's required for all development. However, we put the dark sky, it's in our master, and some of the area plans it's spoken to, so we sometimes highlight that. However, I can't speak to it being in the Spanish Springs plan. I don't believe it's that. I don't know, maybe. Oh, you can go ahead.
If I may approach, just
go ahead, Mr. Pelham.
Helping out my colleague Roger Pelham with Washoe County Planning. Article 414 of the Washoe County Development Code, noise and lighting, requires that any lighting within 100 feet of a residential zone be not greater than 12 feet in height, and there can't be any spillover at the property line. If you feel it is absolutely necessary in this case, this would be a little out of the ordinary, but what you could do is add a condition of approval that requires a photometric study, and what that is something drawn up by an engineer that uses those various light fixtures and shows how far away that goes. But in all cases, the light has to go downward only, and no lenses are allowed to show out under that. So generally speaking, it shouldn't be necessary. And those are standard code requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Pelham. Are there any questions for Mr. Pelham? Thank you. I guess I'll step in here real quick. I read Mr. Hecht's letter that he sent to the board, and yesterday I went out and I did a site visit also. Part of my concern is the height of the building at 24 feet. And I've used this before as a visual indicator, but from where I sit right here to the top of the ceiling is 17 feet. So it would be beyond that. I know there was also a reference made that there's no other buildings of such size or anything like that in the development, and that is partially true. I did travel through the neighborhood down numerous streets and did notice that there are, in fact, single-car garages that have been added and double-car garages that have been added behind the property. I did not see any at that height, however. That being said, HOA approval has already, the HOA has already approved this project. Ms. Olander sent out 79 notices to property owners in the area, and we didn't receive any others other than from Mr. Hecht that is against this project. And the 6 property owners that abut up to this property, we have not seen anything from them of expressing a concern either. So given that, I tend to be in favor of actually leaning in favor for it. I don't like the height. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that, or we can reduce the height because it is equivalent to a 2-story building. However, a neighbor, and I want to say just northeast of you on the next street over, had an addition, a bluish-looking house had an addition that put something up like that too. So it's not unique to the neighborhood. There has been other things that have been approved. Any other questions on this?
I
Ms.
just
Jordan?
have a question do we have a policy on including the letters from HOAs when there is clearance? Because it would have been helpful to have that as a foundation document here, the prior approval of the HOA. That would be helpful to have in a staff packet going forward.
If I can address that.
Yes.
There is a requirement when building plans come to the building department, if there is an active architectural committee or HOA, they do require approval or sign off from such committees. And so, but the applicant is likely not submitted, I don't know if they've submitted plans yet or not. Typically, they come to the Board of Adjustment before they submit the building plans to the building department, but that will be a requirement with the building department.
Okay, but the applicant has said that the approval of the HOA is already there? I take it?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Chair, if I may. I live out not far from this area. I'm not a part of this HOA. I have seen other appurtenant structures, garages, that we have approved as a board. Probably most of them before my time on this board, but what I have seen is a lot of second guessing after the structure has already been built, and it's not fair to the gentleman who's gone to the trouble of getting this administrative permit and actually building his structure. I have a little heartburn about item 6 on his application, the administrative permit application. It says in his writing, building will not be seen from the street. Clearly, I think that's pretty optimistic. 24-footer, yeah, it's going to be seen. I'm really torn on this. I love people to have structures like this. I would love to have a 2,400 square foot building on my property, and I'm zoned for it. I just don't have the neighbors that have an appetite for it. And I can't blame them. And therefore, I'm not in support of this measure. I'd like to see it come down and not be so tall. And I know that's an imposition, but that's why we have administrative permits and variances on the size of these structures. It exceeds the size of the home. I'm not real comfortable with this one.
Thank you. Mr. Pierce.
This is Rob for the record. I think the gentleman has done a great job. He's dotted his i's, crossed his t's, and the HOA approved it. So I am in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stanley.
Mr. Chair, is it appropriate for me to ask the appellant a question? at this
Yes,
point?
you may. Mr. Doyle, would you please come back to the podium?
Yes, sir, Mike Doyle.
Mr. Doyle, two questions really. I'd assume the driver, and please straighten this out if I'm incorrect here, but I assume the driver for 24 feet is so you can fit something that's 22 feet or something into so you have something tall, some tall piece of gear.
Part of the structure of the building is in the what is it, rafters or truss package?
Yeah.
There'll be storage in that.
Mm-hmm.
And through Reno Trust, they designed an area for storage above the vehicles.
I see. Okay, second question is, when you said apparently in the application that it couldn't be seen from the street, what was your thinking there?
If I'm standing out in the street in front of my home, between the trees and the grade and the top of my roof, it's going to match, it's going to actually look like the same roof line as my existing roof line. You might see 1.5 feet of it because the court in the front and then all the vegetation around the front of the house, you won't be able to see it. And I live in that particular part of the court. When you come in, it's almost like you don't even see our house before you see the court, if that makes any sense. And I provided photos of the front of the house there.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
This is Rob for the record. I'll make a motion. I move that after given reasonable consideration and information contained in staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Board of Adjustments approve administrative permit case number WAD-MIN 22-0021 for Rebecca J. May Doyle with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Development Code Section 110.808.25, consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effect on the military installation.
Mr. Pierce, do you want to add the condition in regard to the paint color matching and the landscaping?
And to have the paint color match and put in 1 tree.
Okay. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is, yes, that's right. Administrative permit case number WAD-MIN 22-0022. This is care for the infirmed. And we have Planner Oakley.
Kat Oakley, Washoe County Planning. The case before you now is an administrative permit for the use of a recreational vehicle for the care of an infirmed resident at 16270 Mount Rose Highway. This property falls within the forest area plan. It's zoned low-density suburban and is surrounded by parcels that are similar sizes that are either developed with single-family residences and the associated accessory structures, or are vacant public lands. So this request specifically is for the temporary use of a recreational vehicle to house an infirmed resident whose caretaker lives on the property in the main dwelling. Here's a site plan that looks a little different than when I last saw it, but the yellow should be highlighting the RV there next to the house. So you can see it's right there next to the main dwelling, which then serves to shield it from people driving down Mount Rose Highway, and is within all of the setbacks of the regulatory zone. So this use is allowed with the approval of an administrative permit in the case that there is a signed affidavit from a Nevada physician, which is included in the application, and that the caretaker for the infirm resident either lives in the dwelling or in the recreational vehicle. In this case, they live in the dwelling. The permit must be renewed annually, which I just want to emphasize since the public comment that you received this week had some questions about the duration of this. So it would need to be renewed on an annual basis. There is an open code enforcement case on this property for the use of an RV for permanent living. The violation was found of section 110.310.35F, temporary camping. And so this application, if it is approved, would resolve that complaint. And then any further code enforcement issues, if any remained, would need to be resolved between the property owner and code enforcement. If this is approved, Joseph Fastbinder will be permitted to live in the RV on the property of Jennifer and Luigi Tallarico. Here's a diagram of the property. It's a little bit of an unusual shape, so I just denoted how we would consider the lot lines. One of the requirements of this permit is that the RV be screened from the road. Mount Rose Highway runs along the northern border of this property, and quite a bit of the right-of-way is on the property itself. And so here you can see a picture from the property, or from Mount Rose Highway looking at the property, and then a diagram of where staff has proposed a condition for additional screening. As you can see from the picture, there's quite a bit of vegetation, so it is pretty well screened when you're looking at it straight on, but because of the grade of the area and the way the highway runs, when you're driving up Mount Rose Highway, you can see the RV from the side, and so that's why we've proposed that screening shown there. In terms of utilities, the property is currently served by well and septic and by waste management for garbage collection. We received comments from the health district and from water rights that ensure appropriate utility connections and provision. And they were a couple of the several agencies that reviewed this and provided comments and conditions, which are included in your packets. Notices were sent out to 30 separate property owners within 670 feet. And staff can make all 5 required findings of consistency, adequate improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effect on a military installation because there's not one within the noticing distance, and so is recommending approval. The applicant is here in chambers, doesn't have a presentation, but is happy to answer any questions, and I am also happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Stanley?
Yes, thank you. Planner Oakley, we got one of our letters, I believe, was talking about emphasizing the temporary nature of this. And then I think I noticed that the medical certificate suggested a 2-year time period, but that wouldn't apply to code. So can you help us a little bit with that, the idea of temporary and how that applies here or does not apply here?
Yeah, so the permit is issued on a temporary basis. We generally issue them for a year. They need to be renewed every year, and so basically, the issue can be revisited every year, and if there are problems, or surrounding property owners feel there are problems, then that could be addressed via conditions or via, a change in the status of the permit on an annual basis at the hearing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Lloyd, I'm going to put you on the spot. I just thought of something. Maybe you can clarify it for me. Is there any restrictions to the number of the infirm that can be on a property at one time?
Ironically, I don't know that question has ever come up. Let me take a quick look at the code. I don't know that the code specifically spells out one per parcel. Now, keep in mind, we don't want to see an RV farm on a property, right? But give me just one moment to look that up. Maybe you want to go on to another question.
Yeah, that's okay. It just kind of struck me just now that I know we've approved a couple of these, but I was just kind of wondering what if you had 5 or 6 or 7 people on there? Would that be allowable? We can move on, and we can do the research on that, and you can get with me later. We'll just go ahead and keep expediting this along. So, is the applicant present and wish to speak on this? You have anything you want to add to this?
If you would please state your first and last name for the record. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lori Fassbinder. My husband is terminally ill, so, I don't know if I'll be back next year to request a renewal. So the neighbor who wrote that comment was just being maybe not so kind in writing that. So that's all I really have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we will go ahead and close that. Madam Secretary's public comment?
I do. In chambers, I have Harold Schambach. And if you could just state your name for the record.
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Harold Schambach. I live basically right next door with a open lot in between, and I have absolutely no problems with this being approved. And I think a lot of these things should be done in the light of the way people are being outcast, and I just think it's ridiculous. They're nice people, they're social, they're pleasant. I have no problems with it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I have no further public comment in chambers.
And I have no hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion. The only issue I have here, and I know Mr. Large is aware of this, is going through the documentation. The Nevada Revised Statute says it's supposed to be signed by a licensed physician, and what we have is the signature on the documentation from a physician's assistant. I don't want to say that makes this null and void, but I guess maybe what I'm asking is can we add a condition that if we decide to approve this, that we could predicate that upon the signature from the physician?
Obviously you can, Michael Large for the record, District Attorney's Office. Yes, you can condition it on a licensed physician. I know this board has faced this question in the past. The intent and purpose of the NRS and Washoe County Code in this regard is to allow these facilities for care of the infirmed, and most people have a difficult time getting in to see a physician versus a physician's assistant. Who is also licensed by the state of Nevada. The intent and purpose of the Nevada Revised Statute is to allow these. Having a medical professional, I think the law is somewhat antiquated. I'm not going to quibble with that the law says what it says, but it is somewhat antiquated in regard to the medical, who needs to provide that thing. But this board is clearly within its scope to condition any further on having an affidavit submitted from a physician.
But
is that as clear as mud?
Thank you. Yes, it is. But in so doing, with the spirit of the intent of the law would be to go ahead and accept I don't need to put you on the spot, but.
Based on the historic, what this board has done in the past, and the intent and the underlying intent of the law, that I'm in agreement with that, yes.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. Any other discussions on this item amongst the members? Mr. Stanley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with the, particularly with the neighbor's comment and his rationale on why we may be seeing more of this and how it's the right thing to do. And I would be for this. And as DDA Large points out, we have precedents having done this, I think, twice or 3 times fairly recently. So a medical professional licensed by the state of Nevada, I think, has passed scrutiny a couple of times.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
could, just a quick glance at the code. Under temporary occupancy of the care of the infirm, it does mention one self-contained travel trailer or recreational vehicle may be temporarily occupied as illegal use, and it goes on. So we do read that as, yes, you're limited to one RV on your property for this purpose.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Stanley?
I will make a motion. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve administrative permit case number WAD-MIN 22-0022 for Jennifer and Luigi Tallarico, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Development Code, Section 110-808.25, and that includes consistency, improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and effects on a military installation.
This is Rob. For the record, I'll second it.
Second it. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, administrative permit case number WAD-MIN 22-0023, the COD detached garage. Mr. Brozcek, I believe you're up. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Pelham's going to step in.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Roger Pelham with Washoe County Planning. I am standing in this evening for Chris Bronzik, who is taking a well-deserved vacation. This administrative permit is a request to build a detached accessory structure, a garage, larger than the main dwelling. This parcel is located down in the sort of the Pleasant Valley area, north into Washoe Valley, just off of Ora Loma Road, as can be seen here. The request is for a 3,200 square foot structure on a parcel of land with an existing 1,442 square foot. So this is a little more than twice the size of the main dwelling. When you have one that's larger than the main dwelling, of course, an administrative permit is required so that we can review and make sure that it fits in with the neighborhood. In this case, it is going to be, or proposed to be, located towards the back corner of the parcel of land, as shown here. And we do have a condition to require 3 additional evergreen trees to be planted between this structure and the roadway. And again, that's just to sort of obscure it a little bit, to soften the effect. While this is intended to be a metal structure, the roof can't be shiny. That's part of our area plan, and it will be painted to match the main dwelling. Again, this is a parcel that's low-density suburban. That's 1 dwelling per acre. That's what this parcel is, as are the surrounding developed parcel. This meets all of the required setbacks. There's no plumbing associated with this one, so this really is just a detached accessory structure for with just electricity installed. This was noticed appropriately. We had no recommendations for denial from any of the reviewing agencies. We can make all of the findings as noted in your staff report. Staff is recommending approval, and I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Is there any questions for staff? Mr. Stanley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Roger, you may have addressed this and I missed it, but the Washoe County Conservation District suggesting evergreens versus deciduous and a ratio. If we wanted to nod toward that suggestion, would that be handled as a condition? And
I don't think I'm quite following your question. I'm sorry.
if I'm looking, I think I see a suggestion here by the conservation group that additional trees be added of a certain type. Was that addressed in the, in what you presented?
Yes, there will be 3 additional evergreen trees conditioned to be planted.
Thank you.
Any further questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you. Is the applicant present wish to speak on this matter?
Good afternoon. Mike Bix with Monte Vista Consulting. I'm the applicant's representative. I'd like to thank you for your time today and thank Roger for his presentation as well. I've got a brief presentation and then we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have for us. See if I can figure this out. All right. So Roger covered most of this. Here's an aerial photo showing where the property is located. I won't get into all the specifics, but it is zoned LDS and master plan is suburban residential. The proposed use is allowed in the zoning district. Again, it's going to be located towards the rear of the property. One of the conditions of approval, and we agree to that, is the building be painted to match the primary structure and have a non-reflective roof. And so we're committing to that. Here's the site plan again. Access will utilize the existing driveway. No new driveway connections will be made. We'll go around the existing garage. Here are a couple shots of that driveway and kind of the proposal there. And then we'd just like to point out that this is a very consistent use out here. We just recently, about a year ago, we're working with a project that approved a 24,000 square foot structure. It's in a different zoning district, but within, a pretty close vicinity. I don't know if the laser, this one right here. And then there are several other large detached structures, including one directly adjacent to our site. And so right here, you can see the neighbor, our garage is going to be essentially, adjoined to their garage. Again, we are meeting all the setback requirements, 30-foot rear setback, but we have reviewed and agreed to the conditions of approval, and thank you for your consideration. We'll be available for any questions you may have. Additionally, the owner is available via Zoom if you have any questions for him. So thank you for your time.
Real quickly, there's a little shed or outback building against I believe it's the west property line. Is that going to be removed and this facility will take that, or are you going to leave that one? It's got the little red tractor, and I was out there yesterday looking at the property. There's a little red tractor. It's right in front of the boat that's right out there. I don't know if you've been out there.
It's my understanding that this will take the place of the shed and the tractors and the boat and the vehicles you see out there will be stored within it is kind of the goal.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Christensen.
For the record, Don Christensen. I'm looking at a pretty substantial driveway. What material is proposed to be used in this extra driveway?
It's going to be unpaved. It'll be gravel of some sort with just a concrete apron at the structure. So
okay, so we have a concrete apron, actually a concrete driveway to the existing structure. And this indicated a continuation of that driveway, but it's not the same material.
No, and it's specified on our site plan, which is a little bit difficult to read at this scale, but.
I apologize, I can't read that
Yep,
closely.
no worries, I understand. So we're going to extend the driveway, like I said, with a gravel unpaved surface beyond the existing driveway. And then once we get to the garage, it's pretty standard to have a small concrete apron there.
Sure.
And so we're going to do a 5-foot, I believe, concrete apron right at the structure. And that's detailed on the site plan, but at this scale and in black and white, it's not.
Looks like a lot of gravel. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions for this gentleman? Okay, seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Madam Secretary, is anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter?
I do not have any public comment in chambers.
And I do not have any hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you. We'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion. Any discussion on this matter?
Well, I just have a query on page 11. I think there's a typo, but it says the approval of the location, I would say, and size of the garage until full review is completed by WCHD. What would that review be? And can the staff elaborate on that?
You're talking page 11, number 4C, is that what you're referencing?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I wasn't quite understanding what that meant.
Mr. Pelham, can you
If I
help
may,
us out there?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's Washoe County Health Department, and all that's really saying is that when the building permits come in for review, Health Department is one of the agencies that it will be routed to, and it will have to meet all of their code when that occurs.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments on the board? Mr. Chairman, was that a yes or no?
It's a yes. I have a comment, and I'm generally inclined to be favorable to this applicant, and I also was pleased to see that it's consistent with the area plan.
Thank you. Any further comment? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Rob for the record. I'll make a motion. I move that after given reasonable consideration to the information contained in staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Board of Adjustments approve administrative permit case WAD-MIN 22-0023 for the Rough Burn Living Trust with the conditions included in Exhibit A of this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Development Code Section 110.808.25, consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effect on a military installation.
Thank you. I will second, or I'm sorry, go ahead. Ms. Julian will second that. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed unanimously. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Recording stop.
would have thought that would have been more, because don't you get I was up. Start building up, and it's just a lost cause. You know, math. Just, I mean, this big around.
Okay, we're back in business. All right, next item on the agenda, special use permit case number WSUP 22-0024, the St. Peter's Catholic Church. And we have Ms. Olander presenting. Genesis.
Julie Olander with Planning and Building for the record. So this is a special use permit to add 5,081 square feet to an existing 6,064 square foot church. And a special use permit is required per code. I just want to remind some of you that on July 1st of 2021, another application came before you for the same location. It was for a food pantry and a resource hub, and that was approved. And it's the pantry was located in the northwest corner of the site. So it might sound familiar. This is where the site's located. It's in the Sun Valley area. I have sort of an overview of where the site is and then a close-up view. The pantry's not shown on this map, but it would be in that northwest corner. The request is to increase the size of the church. The parcels is zoned MDS, medium density suburban, as are the parcels to the north, west, and east. The parcel to the south is the Sun Valley Elementary School and has a zoning of public and semi-public facility. The master plan designation for the area is suburban residential. And the parcel is in the Sun Valley Area Plan and is within the Suburban Character Management Area. Here's an overview of the existing building and the proposed building. So it's just an addition to the sanctuary portion of the church. And these are elevations. Concerning traffic and parking, the main access is from Fifth Avenue, East Fifth Avenue, and they're proposing a new access off of Leon Drive. The traffic analysis letter indicated that they have an issue with the parking and circulation at the site, and several recommendations were included in the traffic letter, and that those recommendations are conditioned in the conditions of approval to address those traffic and parking issues on the site. And here's an overview. You can sort of see where the parking is going to be located and where the access is off of East 5th Street, and then the new access off of Leon Drive. For landscaping, drainage, and grading, the landscaping is planned to be along East 5th Street and Leon Drive, and I have a landscape plan to show you in just a moment. Drip irrigation will be established to the existing and the new landscaping. The site does drain naturally towards East 5th Street, and the applicant is proposing to locate an on-site detention area on that area along the driveway, by the driveways. Overall, the site is fairly flat, and there will only be minimal grading on the site. They're proposing 3,360 cubic yards of cuts and 180 cubic yards of fill, for a total net of 3,210 cubic yards. The applicant is intending to use all the material on site to minimize exporting of material as if possible. And here's the landscaping plan. You can see where they're proposing to landscape, and they will meet the landscaping criteria of the code. There was a neighborhood meeting held on July 28th at 6 p.m. at the church. Approximately 80 people attended the meeting. The applicant's representative gave a presentation on the proposed addition. And according to the applicant's summary, there were no specific questions. However, the attendees were supportive of the project and appreciated the opportunity to have their question addressed. There was one request for the driveway off of Leon. 89 parcels were noticed and sent, and I did not receive any emails and phone calls, and I double-checked myself there, Board Member Julian, to check that one. I apologize for the oversight last time. And the noticing went out to properties within 500 feet of the site. Various agencies reviewed the applications and provided comments. The agencies had conditions. Those conditions are included in the conditions of approval. Staff is able to make all the findings as detailed in the staff report. I provide a possible motion, and the applicant's representative is here, and he's available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you. Is the applicant present, wish to speak on this matter?
Good afternoon, Mr. Thomas. Greg Ernie, the architect for the project for St. Peter Canisius Church. I think Ms. Olander did a thorough job on the presentation. I don't need to be redundant and say it again. This is pretty much, as she stated, an addition to the existing church, very successful church, very popular church. And one of the things I might add is this is going to be a major improvement to the neighborhood and to the site. If you recall the aerial that she showed, there were a couple of buildings and not a whole lot more. And if you recall the landscaping plan that was put in here, we're going to bring some organization to the fact that people just kind of drive on the site and park wherever they want to. And we'll have controlled access in and out through the driveways. And overall, this should be a major improvement to the neighborhood and the way the church operates in that community out there. So if you have any additional questions, please, I'm here to answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for this gentleman? None? Thank you, sir. Madam Secretary, is there any public comment on this item?
I have no public comment in chambers.
And I have no hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
For the record, Don Christensen, I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve with conditions special use permit case number WSUP 22-0024 for St. Peter Canisius Real Property LLC, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code Section 110.810.30, to wit, consistency, improvements, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and effect on military installation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next agenda item is special use permit case number WSUP 22-0025, 5 Ridges Grading. And again, I believe we have Ms. Olander.
Julie, for the record, Don Christensen, can you please speak up? I'm just
I
as deaf
apologize,
as a
yes.
board.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Julie Olander for the record. So this is an application for a special use permit to allow the utility usement, a utility service to use, to add 2 12-inch underground water lines and to approve a major grading for an emergency access road, resulting in the disturbance of up to 2 acres of the site with a net increased fill of 5,000 cubic yards, and for modifications of standards 110, 438, 45A, C, and G, and H, and to minimize the grading footprint, and a modification to 110, 438, 50A to allow the use of riprap. The proposed use of utility service is permitted in open space, which this property is zoned with a special use permit. And the proposed grading does meet the major grading thresholds. And as I said, they're asking for the modifications which are allowed under Article 810. The Board of Adjustments can vary the development code. Here's the site. It's located sort of in the north section of the Sun Valley area. And as some of you might remember, this applicant came in for a previous approval for grading of for an emergency road and for a utility easement. That one was in the light blue color off of Warhol Drive. That was SUP 200008. And this one is off of Cezanne Drive. And this is the permit that's before you today. And the water lines and the emergency road are all for the 5 Ridges development. Like I said, this is for the roadway and water line off Cezanne Court, and it is for 5 Ridges, which is a multifamily residential development of approximately 1,200 to 1,300 residential units located in the city of Sparks. The emergency road and water line will be located in the northern portion of the 26-acre parcel, which is owned by the Highland Ranch HOA. And the applicant does have an agreement with the HOA for the roadway and the utility easement from Cezanne Court. And here's the proposed alignment of the roadway. The black line is the roadway itself, and then the area of disturbance is the red line. As I said, the regulatory zoning of this parcel is open space, and the parcels to the west are residentially zoned and are part of the Stonecrest development, and the parcels to the east are in the city of Sparks. The parcel is vacant, and the portion along the western portion, the parcel is vacant, and the portions along the western portion of the site have been previously graded for residential development to the west for that Stonecrest development. Most of the parcel slopes are less than 30%, except where the road is proposed to be located. And again, I'll show you a map. So you can see that the slopes are pretty significant in this area. However, this is where it was agreed upon to place this road by the HOA and the applicant. The 20-foot wide paved emergency road will be gated at Cezanne Court and will provide that emergency access for wildfires or whatever might occur out there that they would need that secondary access for. The road and the water lines will be maintained by the Five Ridges HOA and not by Washoe County. The proposed water line is classified as a major service utility and a special use permit is required, as I stated earlier. And the water line will be constructed underground to run along the proposed roadway alignment. The Sun Valley General Improvement District will provide a large portion of the water service to the Five Ridges, and that is the reason a water line is needed to connect with the GID's water infrastructure. The applicant is requesting to disturb up to 2 acres with the result of 6.6 cubic yards of cuts and 13,415 cubic yards of fill. The grading is for the 3 drainage road crossings, which will require installation of 24-inch culverts to maintain the natural flow from the north to the south on the property. All disturbed areas are conditioned to be revegetated with native seed mix to help the slope blend with the natural surroundings. Any trees removed, and I just believe there's a few, will be replaced as a 2-to-1 ratio. And the rock that's used for the riprap areas will be stained or conditioned to stain to match the existing rocks. And then they're also going to be conditioned to add a bonded fiber matrix material, and that will assist with vegetation growth. The applicant is requesting to modify several sections of code, and these modifications are based on the need to have 2-to-1 slopes. The applicant had negotiated with the HOA, and HOA had agreed that the applicant could have this roadway, but they had to have 2-to-1 slopes, and they didn't want any walls. So the option of riprap is being introduced to stabilize the 2-to-1 slopes. And as I said, the applicant is conditioned to stain the riprap rocks to match the existing rocks, and then the area will be backfilled with dirt and re-vegged with that material that will help sustain the vegetation. And also the vegetation will be irrigated until it's established. However, the trees will be permanently irrigated, and that's in the conditions. Here are the areas of riprap. It's sort of the darker gray. It follows the road. You can see that's where all the 2-to-1 slope are located. They held a neighborhood meeting on September 19th by Zoom, and they had 3 attendees. And according to the applicant's summary, there were no specific questions about the proposal. One attendee spoke and said they appreciated having the opportunity to hear about the project. 128 parcels were noticed and to meet the 500-foot requirement, and I did not receive any emails or phone calls. Again, various agencies have reviewed this application, and those ones with conditions are included in your conditions of approval. Staff is able to make all the findings, and I have a possible motion. Also, the applicant's representative is here, and I believe they have a presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you. Applicant present wishing to speak on this matter?
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Hasty. I'm with Wood Rogers, and I'm representing the applicant, who's also here today to answer any questions you guys have. So Julie did a good job of going over a majority of this, so I'll try not to be repetitive here. I think we all have a good idea of where this is located. We're, again, looking at a 26-acre parcel that's owned by the Highlands Ranch HOA, and we're only looking to disturb about 2 of those acres. This is a very important piece of the Five Ridges development, which is located in the city of Sparks. And then, so just recently, the city of Sparks approved the villages 8, 9, and 10, which you can kind of see to the right here to the east, which are in the blue. And so this water line is already been approved. That's the portion that is shown within the city is Sparks. And the portion that goes into the Highlands Ranch HOA parcel, that's the whole parcel itself is colored yellow, and then the red area is the area that we'll actually be disturbing. This is the grading limits we are confined to. So what we're looking for, again, is just a major grading permit to install this water line, as well as emergency access road that can be utilized for both of the communities, not only the Five Ridges community, but also the Highlands Ranch community and all of Sun Valley. Another important part of this water line is that this is going to improve the water pressure and everything throughout the whole Sun Valley area. Anybody who is using this actually could, because they have two of the two 12-inch things, it will be looped, and so this is going to help improve the water pressure for the entire area. As stated as well, prior to submitting this application, they had an agreement with the Highlands Ranch HOA, who do own the property that this is being proposed on. And with that, they wanted to minimize the grading impact. And so we have the 2-to-1 slopes that are proposed as part of that. They also wanted to make it look and return to natural vegetation, so they didn't want any walls or anything like that. And they also concerned about any pinyon pines that got removed, and they agreed to replace those as well. So looking at Washoe County Code, again, we had to apply for a special use permit because of the over 5,000 cubic yards of fill. And then with the 2-to-1 slopes, we are asking to vary from the development standards. We did have 2 pre-application meetings, one with the county staff and one with the neighborhood. After we there were 3 members that attended the in-person neighborhood meeting, several members of the HOA, and then one resident. Again, there was no really concerns. And then we also had a follow-up virtual meeting after we submitted the application, where it was 1 resident that attended. And again, there was no immediate concerns. This is just kind of going over the project details. You can see the 3 culvert crossings that are going to be placed within there. Again, this is just for the natural flows of the water to come going from north to south. We are going to be adding a fire hydrant to about the middle of this as well to help. This was requested by fire to help combat any wildfires that come up in this area. The paved area will be about will be a minimum of 20 feet wide, which is fire code. And again, where we're proposing 2-to-1 slopes, we are providing 3 types of soil treatment. Either one is good enough for slope stabilization, but we will have a riprap with topsoil, so then that riprap will not really be exposed. It won't be showing that much. And then we're going to have a bonded fiber matrix applied to that, as well as a natural seed mix that will allow this to be established over time. So there's existing 2-to-1 slopes along the whole water line in the city of Sparks, as well as this is very similar to what was already proposed, again, as Julie mentioned, along Warhol Drive. So this is the second emergency access as well as water line that will attach to the Five Ridges development. So we're not proposing anything that's not already been approved. There's existing 2-to-1 slopes on site, as well as this example from something that's in the city of Reno kind of shows what the riprap with the topsoil looks like. And you can see that there's natural vegetation that gets established afterwards. This is a rendering. We had 3 renderings made to show what it would look like. And this is looking from the north, looking south. You can see Cezanne Court, and then going into the city of Sparks. Here's another rendering as well, and then the detail of the slope treatments. So thank you. I appreciate your time, and we have read all of the conditions and our agreement with them, and I will be here to answer any of your questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for this gentleman?
I have one, yes.
Yes, Mr. Stanley. If you can come back up, thank you.
Would you be kind enough to show us again on the aerial view where those culverts are?
The culverts, yeah. I get the. Okay. There's this right here. Okay. I think it's easiest to see.
Yeah, there was a actual aerial photo, I think, that might.
Okay.
Kind of real life stuff.
Do you want this one or the last one?
I believe it was your renderings.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what he's referring to.
Yeah, we're getting there. There we go.
Okay, so if you can see my cursor here, this is the main one. This is the biggest one that we have, and there's going to be another one right here as well as another one right there.
Okay, and are there any catchment basins for this or for any potential water going through or no?
This just perpetuates the flows through. Yeah, it's just going through, allowing the flows to continue through the property. It's not going to be catch basins or anything like that.
So, not particularly following what you're saying, but where for 24-inch culverts, where might the water go? After coming through the culverts, it goes, you said north to south, but could you show us here?
So it will continue.
Just my understanding.
Yeah, just continuing. I believe it comes in this way. We have an engineer here too that might be able to help answer this, but I believe it comes in through here. It'll go through the culvert and then continue down. I don't know if it gets picked up back here and then goes into storm drain, but.
Ashley Verling with Wood Rogers. So as Eric mentioned, there's several drainage areas on the site and just natural channels that are kind of going around. The one that he was pointing to. So this one right here actually comes down and then kind of loops back around and is what the second culvert is over here. We're still in preliminary design, so he mentioned that there were 3. But the more that we've kind of looked into it, we're probably going to eliminate one of them, so there'll only be 2 culverts, but we're still in that design process.
So if I'm seeing this correctly, then the water flow won't go into developed areas?
No, we're just perpetuating existing flows and making sure that they can get under the roadway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We will take public comment next in a minute, so we'll hold off.
Give you more information.
We'll hold off because this is the applicant's presentation, and then you'll have your opportunity to speak. So, are there any other questions for the applicant? I have a couple, if you'll come back up. With the addition of the pipeline that you're requesting that's going to go in, is it already connected to this? Will it connect to the city of Sparks? Do they already have a line there on the border?
Eric Hasty for the record. So again, I believe that there is one water line that is in Cezanne Court right now. And then this is for the Sun Valley General Improvement District as well. So I'm not exactly sure if that's connected to, if it's its own system or not. We also have the applicant here who knows a little bit more about that and might be able to answer a little more.
Yeah, if someone could clarify that, because you're going to be putting a pipeline in, you're going to be heading east on there, and it's going to get to the border or the boundary line. And is there already a connection from the city of Sparks right there? Or you're going to have, a lack of a better term, a dead line going in there until the city of Sparks puts their water lines in?
So I believe that it's going to go into the Five Ridges development to the east and then go down into Highlands Ranch and then loop back into the system.
Yes, if you'll come up, sir, and state your name so we can.
Yes, I'm Blake Smith. I'm the managing partner of Five Ridges Development. What you're seeing there is that those lines, the line that is in the city of Sparks and the line that we're looking to prove here will be built concurrently. So it comes in, there's not 2 separate ones. This is just the continuation of the same line. This line's critical to come in from SVGID's standpoint. They'll deliver all the water to our project. And this is the looping line that goes in it. They have to have the water loop in the system. So we already have the first one built that you saw on there. That one's in and operational. This is the looping one, the second one that comes in, so that SVGID has two sources of water into the loop, as they call it.
So the city of Sparks will still need to add their second line, so you'll have a complete loop, is that right?
Well, we'll actually develop. We'll build all the lines there.
Okay. But
So
I guess my point is, what I was asking is, from the cul-de-sac heading east, you were going to put a road in, and you're going to put these lines in.
Correct.
And I guess what I was asking is, from the border, the eastern border, I know there's not a paved road in there already. I've been out to the site. So you're going to put a paved road in that's just going to stop?
No.
And when is the city of Sparks going to continue and put a paved road in to meet that?
So we will develop the road on both sides, both in the county and the city, and we'll build it all at one time.
Okay. So it's going to be concurrent on both
Correct.
sides? All right. Now, my only other question is where you have the road scheduled and then it goes to the 2-to-1, it's kind of coming out of the cul-de-sac and kind of moving a little bit north of the cul-de-sac. What would prevent it from being the road actually coming down south a little bit out of the cul-de-sac and foregoing the steepness right in that area? Is that a probability or not? Or a possibility, I should say?
Well, this is the engineers, in working with the HOA, when we went and had this approved by the HOA, their board approved this, and these are the boundaries that the HOA wanted to have. So we're just designing within that agreement that we have with them. It's a recorded easement right now, so we're just developing inside that easement.
Okay, that tends to answer my question. I just didn't know why that route was actually chosen, if there was a flatter area where you didn't have to request a SUP for a 2-to-1 grading if you came down further south and then picked that up.
Yeah.
But if that was the HOA and all that, okay, we will work within those confines. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we will go ahead and close close comment, or close that portion and open public comment on this matter. Madam Secretaries, do we have public comment?
I have John Gavin in chambers. If you
Thank
could
you.
state your name at the podium, please.
Hi there, my name is John Gavin. I live on Cezanne near the intersection of Donatello. Sorry I'm late to the parade here, but I was out of town for August and I don't have technology or skills to run technology. And I didn't see your report until just a little while ago. Several things came to mind. But first of all, I need to know how far up they need to go to tie into water lines. Are they going to tear up Cezanne Court? Also, on the view that you have on your screen right now, you can see where they tie in at the end of Cezanne. If you actually come up to the beginning of Cezanne, and then just a little to the upper left, there's outside that black line, there's another street there. That's actually oh, okay, thank you. That street right up there is actually the back road up behind the new middle school. And directly across from that is the future extension of Sun Valley Boulevard that eventually is supposed to end up going out to like Eagle Canyon. And it's wide enough, it's I don't remember, it's like a 130-foot right-of-way through there, wide enough for a 10-lane road. And I wish I'd been earlier to the game, because that would have been the best place to tie in, because when you have, I've been in construction for 50 years. When you have a utility put in and you have an access road put in between two neighborhoods, you know what happens. They fill in, okay? Eventually, that's going to be a travel lane. If you take your measurements, Cezanne is like 33 feet wide, and if you have a car parked on each side, that leaves you 16 or 18 foot in the middle for two-way traffic.
In addition, Thursday's garbage day, recycle day, and you've got big trucks on, and basically you just shut down two-way traffic. And so it would be much more accessible through the one that I just pointed out. And I've got a ton of things to say, and I'm not going to get it done that says I only have 25 seconds left.
That's correct.
The bottom of the picture, I can add to you that if you walked out the bottom of the picture, that walks you up to the middle school. And the middle school collects all the water from the other side of the school and brings it all down through two 48-inch round culverts. If you walk that same little ditch back, okay? I can give you tons of information on this that would be helpful.
Okay, I'll tell you what, just stay put for a second. I know this is a little bit out of the norm. First of all, Madam Secretary, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this?
I have no further public comment in chambers.
And I have no hands raised via Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Is there a question for this gentleman? Mr. Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As long as you've made that extension for the public commenter, you mentioned a couple of 48-inch culverts at the middle school. And we have some of us have some previous experience with a school complex that made catchment basins that were roughly half as large as needed. And the next winter, that was made fairly obvious. So would you be kind enough to show us where their culverts are and how that water channels down to the 48-inch, if I understand it correctly, to the 48-inch culverts you're speaking of?
I think you can see where the proposed is, and I think I'm not sure if that's I think that's just a dirt road. I don't think this is detailed enough that you can see it. But basically, it comes up behind these houses, and then someplace right in here, I'm guessing, it might be up further, but it's right along this edge. And there's a cement header, and then there's two like 48-inch round culverts. And I live right there, okay? Being in construction for 50 years, my neighbors used to say, hey, what's going on? And we used to walk around the school. All the way up the opposite side of the school, there's almost like a little canyon up there, and the water comes down through there. And there's a collection system all up on what would be the northwest side of the school. And all that, I'm guessing, funnels under. I didn't see any other piping. I'm guessing that all funnels under and then comes out in that area. And then, of course, kind of like where they're running their access road, if you drive to the end of Cezanne,
Mr. Gavin, let me interrupt you here.
Kind of a canyon.
He had a specific question that he wanted answered, and if you can just address that, we would appreciate that.
Okay.
So,
If you don't mind, just go over again real quickly with your pointer where the water flow is, where the 24-inch culverts are, and how they relate to the 48-inch culverts, and where the water goes.
And I don't know if they're putting in 124 or 324s, but that's his big drainage point is right there. And it comes from right behind these houses and someplace up along this side of that road. And it might even be, there's actually a downhill slope right here. It might even be further down. It might be right in here. You can, I can't remember. I can't remember if you walk, you can walk around this house, which is a 2-story house, and I'll give you an example of 23-foot high for how far down that is to the peak of the roof. And I can't remember if you can see it from this back corner, or you can drive your car up this road, and on the right side of the road, there's actually a hill.
Mr. Chairman, I would highly recommend that this board listen to the engineers and the planners and direct questions to them in regard to this. There's a lot of speculation that's going on in terms of public comment and from someone who is used up his time during public comment.
Mr. Large, thank you for your input. I agree that the engineers have probably done a thorough job of designing this project. I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Stanley, as best he could, get an answer for his question and give the gentleman time to speak. But thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Can I find out how far up Cezanne this is coming? I mean, am I going to have trouble getting out of my garage, or is there tie-in down at the bottom?
You will have to take that up probably with the applicant after this is concluded here. All right, Madam Secretary, again, is there any additional comments, public comments?
I have no public comment in chambers.
And still no hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you very much. We'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for discussion. Is there any discussion on this?
I would like to hear from staff on the points raised by this gentleman to see what their views are. Is that possible?
Okay. Well, it's possible. I just would like clarification as to what points specifically are being raised that need to be addressed by.
I suppose the point about the school and the 24-inch culvert, or 20, right, that point, and the point that Mr. Stanley raised.
Ms. Old Chair, if I may, I think I can hopefully clarify that.
Okay.
If we look at the scope of what this application is, and the brief summary of the request is to allow major grading for emergency access road and water lines. We're getting a little far afield here, if I may, and with all due respect to my colleague. I think we've pretty well beat that up, in my opinion, and I'm interested at a later date of these ancillary concerns, but right today, no, I think we've covered the waterfront.
This is Rob, I agree.
Thank you. I tend to support Ms. Christian's position on this, that this is kind of outside the scope, but Ms. Julian, I mean, if that what it is needed to help you make a decision, we can attempt to address that for you.
No, I was just concerned that the project was creating a situation that was going to be somehow adverse to the community, and he was raising that point, and I was unclear on what, because I did not understand where the pointer was and all of this. So that was my simple clarification of staff. They could opine on something, but if we don't have the engineering staff here to do that, then that's not a problem.
If I can weigh in too, through Mr. Chair. Again, I think what we're talking about, and I need to be careful here because I don't want to cross into the area of being an expert in engineering at all. And we do have our in-house experts. Unfortunately, none of them are here today, but we do have conditions that address this matter. In fact, condition 2H requires a detailed hydrologic report that will address the conveyance of the water and ensure that the adequate culverts are sized adequately to accommodate that stormwater runoff.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Rob, I'll give a motion. I move that after giving reasonable consideration information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustments approve with conditions special use case permit number WSUP 22-0025 for Five Ridges Development Company Incorporated, with the conditions included in Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 5 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.810.30, consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, effects on a military installation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
For the record, Don Christensen, I second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda, special use permit case number WSUP 22-0026, Terracotta Well Site. And I believe we have Planner Markey that will present.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mitch Markey, Planner, Washoe County, for the record. I'm here to introduce WSUP 22-0026 terracotta well sites. The special use permit is going to be located on parcel APN number 047-14112. It's located at the terminus of Callahan Road, just to the south of Annie Callahan Park. The parcel is currently zoned LDS, low density suburban, and it's within the approved tentative map 06-004. As I stated, the request is for a special use permit for the construction of 2 well houses, and these are going to be on a portion of APN 047-14112. You can see on the figure on the right, there is a well house located to the north of the parcel. The red is going to be the parcel, and the little black square in there is actually the footprint of the building. And you can also see to the south there will be a second well house. I believe the northern well house is the terracotta. It's going to be 1,349 square feet. And the southern one is Tierra Grande, which will be about 860 square feet. Well house use is classified as a utility service use type per Washoe County Code. It is allowed in the LDS regulatory zone via the issuance of a special use permit. These particular well sites will include the building, well pump, motor, discharge piping, and an on-site generator, which is required per code. The construction of the well houses and the equipping of the well sites is planned to occur along with future residential development on the site. And these 2 well sites are also included in the 2021-2025 CIP for TUMWA, Truckee Meadows Water Authority. And following the construction of these well sites, TUMWA will then absorb them and then operate them under their water system. So you can see here is the existing conditions. On the left is the terracotta well site. On the right is the Tierra Grande well site. Both of these wells have been drilled. You can see the existing wells right there. I believe those were drilled back in 2005 or 2006. These are the site plans. On the left is terracotta. The building footprint is the white space right there in the middle. It's going to be located on approximately a 10,000 square foot parcel. And on the right is Tierra Grande, which I believe is going to be on right around an 11,000 square foot parcel. The point being that neither one of these triggers major grading. They all fall within a minor grading permit. Here are some exterior drawings of the well sites. The main takeaway here is that they're subdued in tone and earth tone color. The lighting is going to be refracted downward, won't be going on to adjacent parcels or neighboring residences. As I said before, the existing wells were previously approved by Washoe County. The permit number for that is 05-0347. The proposed use is permitted through the issuance of an SUP per Washoe County Code, and the proposed structures will be screened appropriately per Washoe County Code and landscaped consistent with our landscaping code, Article 412. Staff is recommending approval with conditions, and I have a motion up there on the board if you so desire to move forward with approval. With that, I conclude my presentation. I welcome any questions, and I believe the applicant's consultant also has a presentation to make. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any questions for staff?
I have a question regarding the conditions. There's a reference here to, on page 17, I believe, to fencing, and is that a condition here, some sort of fencing, and I think it's talking about trees again. We're back to trees. Is that part of the conditioning? And is the color of the building part of the conditioning? Again, just to be consistent with the staff report.
So fencing is required, I believe, for utility-type buildings such as this.
Okay.
In terms of the color, we can condition that. And I believe if we want to also talk about conditions, there was a recommendation by Washoe Story Conservation to replace the deciduous trees with evergreen trees. The current proposed landscaping meets our code, and we have no issues with the current landscaping that they've proposed. But if the board does desire to add that as a condition, we can also do that.
So the other ones that they have in here require a fence around. Is that part of the project? That there will be a fencing around there, and that the fencing will be natural desert color and whatever?
There is fencing as part of this project, and it will be a similar tan color to that of the buildings.
Okay, so I would just suggest that in going forward that we consider that in the motion.
Mr.
Lloyd?
Yeah, I would like to weigh in if that's okay through the chair. The letter that we received from Washoe Story Conservation District, it is these are suggestions. They are not recommendations. We don't recognize them as an agency that has the power to enforce these as conditions, and so I believe that Mr. Markey is correct, that we do have, that fencing is being proposed, and it does meet, I'm not sure if that's part of the condition or not.
We did not condition it.
Okay,
no.
but it's part of the application packet.
Well, just to clarify, though, again, the consistency, when I read something in a staff report that says something will be done, but then I don't see that it is a condition, then it makes me wonder, well, the staff report says it will be done, but will it be done if it's not a condition?
Go ahead.
I didn't want to. You will find there is a condition that the proposed or the plans that are submitted at the time of the building permit have to be in substantial conformance with the plans that they submit and are approved by this board. So even though they're not necessarily a condition, they have to be in substantial conformance with what they're providing to you as a board.
Thank you. Mr. Stanley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. To piggyback along that line of questioning, is there a landscape plan here, a visual that you can show us again, please?
It should, I can try.
I see the building and I see that.
It should be in the application packet. I didn't include it in the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay.
Let's see.
So.
Give me just a moment. I'll pull it up.
What does it look like? Maybe jumping ahead here. In the past, we have had the ability to add the conditions that were recommended by the Story County Conservancy operation, and that would cut to the question asked earlier. So I would be in favor of that if the applicant is as well.
Let me step in here real quick. This is Clay Thomas. I can draw your attention to Exhibit E, page 32.
I'm sorry, E as in Edward?
E as in Edward, page 32. It's the application request. And under project description and justification, it's the second paragraph. And if you read down to almost the last line, it says, will be fenced, screened, and landscaped in accordance with Washoe County DC Section 110.412.4.
Understood, and thank you. That was mentioned actually by the planner earlier, that it met specs, but I was wondering what specs were and what they look like, and I was asking further that particularly after looking at the visuals of the environment with the evergreen trees, if we could go along with, condition it along the lines of what was suggested by the Conservancy Group.
Yes, let me just step in here. Yes, we can, as a board, we can make, under conditions, we can make a motion to include the desires of this board.
Right.
Within the confines of what we have the privilege to actually recommend and enforce.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions for staff? Mr. Stanley?
Yeah, when we do this, and perhaps DDA Large can help me with this, or Trevor, when we want to add a condition, as I'm suggesting here, is just to make it clear, don't we usually ask the applicant if they would be comfortable with that condition?
That's typically the practice.
It's just good.
I don't know that it's a requirement, but
it's good process and good wills, and all those kind of good things, right?
Yes.
So I am doing that now. May we ask the applicant?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I would recommend hearing from the applicant and let them do their presentation prior to making requests regarding a specific condition of approval.
Thank you, Mr. Large. Yes, I think let's move through staff first, and then we will go ahead and have the applicant come forward. Are there any other questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you. Is the applicant present, and do they dare come to the podium? Being facetious, of course.
Good afternoon, Chair Thomas and members of the board. My name is Karen Downs. I'm with Manhard Consulting. I'm also joined here today by John Enlow with TUMWA, Director of Natural Resources and Management. And we are here representing the applicant on this project. Again, there's two well sites, Terracotta and Tierra Grande well sites. And I will try not to repeat what Mitch already included for you. I do want to point out on this slide that the total acreage of the parcel that we're looking at is 85 acres. And there's the two well sites, which are both one 10,000 square foot parcel and an 11,000 square foot parcel on this site. This overall forest area plan is part of the Washoe County Master Plan and identifies these two well site locations in the utility access plan on site. The site has a suburban residential master plan designation and low density suburban zoning designation. And again, these are the existing conditions pictures that Mitch went over earlier. Shows the existing wells that were previously approved and drilled in 2006 and how the sites were graded with the development of those wells. Excuse me. As you can see, there's no well houses there on site, which is what we're here for today. The use is the utility services use, which is allowed in this zone with a special use permit. So again, today with this application, we're looking for the wells that have already been approved and drilled, looking to allow for the construction of the well houses and equipping of the well sites. Those well houses will house the mechanical components inside, as well as there will be an on-site generator to ensure emergency power. I did want to identify, although really not part of the application, I wanted you to be aware that it will be part of TUMWA's regional water system. It will occur with the future approved residential development on the site and will supply its needs as well as supplement TUMWA's regional system. And that these wells are included in TUMWA's 2021 to 2025 capital improvement plan. So as we're looking at each site, excuse me, again, there's two. This Terracotta one is the one to the north. It is included on a 10,000 square foot parcel. This is the larger of the two and is a 1,350 square foot building with access. On both of these, the access will be from the future road network as proposed. The screening, I know you guys were just talking about that. The screening will include the landscaping as required by code and fencing. Tumwa has provided their standard fencing detail. It's an 8-foot chain link fence with vinyl coating, and it's proposed to match Tumwa's standards. The landscaping, and we did provide a landscape plan with it as well. Landscaping by Washoe County Code is for 20% of the site, and it's 1 tree every 20 feet in offset rows. We don't have any concern with it being all evergreen trees as well. I think the landscape architect just presented it. Typically, there's a mix of deciduous and evergreen. No problems at all providing all evergreen trees. There are, as you saw in the existing conditions photos as well, there are a significant number of trees on site as well to provide additional screening. This is the Tierra Grande site. The biggest difference on this is the well house size is a little bit smaller, 860 square feet. Again, landscaping and fencing as required by code. Here's a typical elevation of the building. This is actually the larger size building. Constructed of CMU block with an exterior stucco look, an insulation system to minimize any noise impacts, and a composition roof. As indicated in our application materials, it's to be painted in natural hues to match any surrounding residential development, so it blends in with the surrounding homes, future homes. And it'll be screened again with the existing trees and with the proposed landscaping. The height on here is a little bit hard to see. It'll be less than a two-story structure. To the eave line is about 16 feet, and then to the peak will be about 21 feet. Again, less than a two-story structure. Here it's coming across real small, but that's a picture of the vinyl coated chain link fence detail also on there as provided by Tumwa. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions, and John Enlow from Tumwa is also here for any questions from Tumwa.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, this is Rob. This is Rob. I have a question. I didn't see it on there. It's going to have a generator, correct? Is the generator going to be inside the building?
No, it'll be outside the building. It will also have a noise attenuation surround. But it'll be outside the building. There's the landscape plan. It's that pad on this picture to the bottom left to my, no, not that, up, well, let's see, I have a pointer here, right? Yeah. Right in here. Here's the pad for the generator.
Okay. Are there any homes around that right now?
So currently, it's all undeveloped. There are, it's an approved residential development, so there will be homes. It meets, gosh, I'm looking at which site this is. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Terracotta to the north.
I can go back to your presentation if you'd like.
Well, sure, oh, that's fine too. It meets the required setbacks, and I was just looking at that site for how far it would be from any other adjacent structure.
Okay. All right. Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Downs, I got a quick question for you. You say that there'll be approximately 500 gallons of water treatment chemicals stored at each location, and
yes.
And then it goes on to say, and maybe this is where I need clarification, and then it'll also be 550 gallons of secondary spill containment provided. What does that mean?
So I'll give you the brief answer, and then if we have specific questions, I'm sure Tuma can provide. But that would be in case of any spill, that'll provide containment for said spill. So it'll accommodate for as much as the chemicals that are there.
Thank you. That's what I wanted clarification on. Thank you. Are there any other additional questions for the applicant? Mr. Stanley.
Just confirmation that deciduous trees will be replaced by evergreen.
I'm sorry, your microphone's not on, Mr. Stanley.
We have no issues with adding all evergreen trees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Downs. Madam Secretaries, do we have public comment on this item?
I do, if you'll give me just one moment to compose myself, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Switching gears.
Okay.
All right, I have Felicia Kavanaugh. I think, I apologize if I said your name wrong. And then Colin Kavanaugh. And if you could state your name. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Felicia Kavanaugh, property owner of 1630 Callahan Road. I'm here to request the special use permit be denied based on the following facts. Those wellheads reside in the Mount Rose Galena Fan Well Mitigation Program area. That's already in place, and it was put in place around 2011 due to the unreasonable and adverse impacts to private and domestic wells related to the pumping of municipal wells in the Mount Rose Highway and Callahan area. The special use permit will further the advancement of these well sites to not only pump to the new development on that 85-acre parcel, but also to supplement the regional water supply. Let's be clear, these are production wells. They're not domestic wells. They've been drilled and they have never been pumped yet. So when that mitigation agreement was put into place in 2011, these wells were in place, but they'd never been used. So obviously, at least a new mitigation agreement needs to happen. Moreover, Tumwa states two things in this special use permit. Number one, it will not further impact the wells in the vicinity. Of course, all the supporting documents are not easily available for me to reference. And it also quotes, there will be 4 monitoring wells. They're not part of this application. They are not required until the residential subdivision is approved. So potentially, this concerning language could result in Tumwa to begin pumping and supplementing our regional water supply with no monitoring wells in place. Our property is located, as I said, 1630 Callahan Road, directly adjacent to this parcel. Our well is 275 yards from this commercial production well site. It's considerably deeper, at least 4 times deeper than any domestic well in the area. Simple water infiltration will dictate that our well will be negatively impacted. The approval of this special use permit will ultimately cause an undue financial hardship on the bordering property owners, as well as potential loss of water, which is a basic human need, and as such, supported and addressed by the Nevada state statutes. At a minimum, I'm asking you to put contingencies in place and not just hang your hat on this is only a building, because this is more than a building. Don't kick the can down the road. Put some contingencies in place that will protect these property owners. Number 1, contingency, the monitoring wells must be in place before any water is pumped. Those 4 monitoring wells must be in place before there's any water pumped. Number 2, all the property owners that reside in the Mount Rose Galena Fan Well mitigation area must be contacted by Tumwa prior to any water being pumped, and a new mitigation agreement needs to be reached because the circumstances have changed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have Colin Kavanaugh, followed by Kevin Kavanaugh.
Good afternoon, Colin Kavanaugh. I'm Kevin and Felicia's son. I live at 16205 Callahan Road, different address. I too am concerned over the special use permit, especially the language which is referenced in the special use permit in the official notice, which reads, the well houses will meet the needs of new development on the parcel and will supplement the regional water system. So to me, this is not simply putting up 2 buildings, this is setting up the foundation for pumping out water, which is what a well house would be for. So I'd implore you to all deny the special use permit due to the fact that there is no substantial evidence provided to the public to support that the Mount Rose Galena Fan watershed has enough water to support a new development or supplement the regional water system. Back in 2022, July, in a dispute between St. James Village and Tumwa regarding St. James Village's desire to create only 24 new lots, Tumwa's lawyer states,
quote, reports from 2002 indicate that based on existing data, water levels in Mount Rose Galena Fan were already falling and that demand for future development could not be met with existing groundwater supplies. This plan, per the special use permit, page 17, is designed for 210 homes. Additionally, my home, among hundreds of others, is part of the existing water mitigation program established by TUMWA in order to, quote, reduce long-term average annual pumping in the Mount Rose Galena Fan area and limit municipal groundwater pumping. Approval of the special use permit, which would, quote, support a new development and supplement the regional water system, would be obviously against the best interest of existing community relying on already sparse and declining groundwater supply and has a potential to cause substantial financial damage to your constituents. Additionally, I believe the special use permit should be denied based upon an inadequate amount of supporting information to make an informed decision. In the staff report, it states that the wells were previously approved, but it should be noted that the wells in question were drilled 16 years ago in 2006 to support the development for that plan referenced as the Rainin and Bardis plan, which has received over a half a dozen extensions since its initial approval in 2008. The staff report also claims TUMWA has provided information about a study showing information that the subject wells will not impact existing domestic wells. However, nowhere in the staff report can I find the study is named or cited, nor is it readily available to the public. If there's one thing that we can all agree on, it's that a lot has changed in Washoe County in 16 years. We've experienced prolonged and unprecedented drought, unprecedented growth, and greater wildfire potential. I believe that it would be irresponsible to move forward with a plan that was originated in 2006, utilizing information that's over a decade old, which does not take into account the regional growth factors which have occurred. I implore you to deny the permit based on the fact that there are no studies or figures provided which are readily available to the public that can prove the water system is robust enough to place such a burden as this upon it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I have Kevin Kavanaugh, followed by Karen Malarkey.
Kevin Kavanaugh, 16370 Callahan. I don't have much. I'm not going to waste your time. My son and my wife's comments say most of it. I think this board does have some room to make some requirements, such as easements, to allow for us for future hookups if we do have problems with our well. I think that would be prudent. I also believe that this is, completely against with what my son said, where the Mount Rose Galena Fan Domestic Well Mitigation Program established this rule, that is to reduce long-term average annual pumping. And it says municipal wells, and these are municipal well buildings. And I do believe you should deny it based on that fact. But again, this is just kicking the can down the road. These wells were drilled 16 years ago, and a lot has changed. Again, most of what I have to say is what they've already said, so I'm not going to waste your time. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Karen Malarkey.
Hi, I'm Karen Malarkey. I live at 6390 Galena Canyon Trail. I live close by this project. I don't have anything that I can say or add to, not too much what they already said, but I know that a couple of our neighbors in the neighborhood are all concerned about the water, about decreasing water levels. We all rely on the same amount of water right there, and I think Asante was just approved with over 200 homes, probably drawing from the same water source, and now this is doing another 200 homes. It's just concerning where the water is coming from. One of the neighbors told me that TUMWA had said that they are hopefully getting the water for this development from White's Creek, which is quite a ways away. It's on the other side of Mount Rose Highway, and we all are relying on water from Galena Creek. And this is right next to Galena Creek. So I just have some questions about what that means or where the water's coming from. And it might be that I just haven't read enough about where this water, where the well water for these 2 wells and the 4 potential wells is going to come from. So just my own questions as a neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further public comment in chambers.
I do have a hand raised via Zoom. Jeffrey Bagley, if you could please unmute yourself and state your first and last name for the record.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Bagley. I am a resident also living at 16355 Callahan Road. My property also directly borders the property in question here where the well sites would be constructed. I'm also a professor of biology at the University of Nevada and an ecologist that studies ecological function. My concerns are in line with what the Kavanaughs have presented in terms of groundwater demand in this area, and also want to bring to the table scientific publications that document decreased groundwater resources throughout the Western U.S. There's a paper published by Rode et al. In 2001 using some really high-level modeling efforts to take into account satellite data, climate data, and groundwater measurements throughout the state of California, finding dramatically reduced groundwater levels within that state. Those same methods were used by colleagues locally to model groundwater predictions, groundwater use, groundwater loss in this state, in the state of Nevada from 1985 to 2021. And in this entire area around Reno, Sparks, Carson City, Lake Tahoe, this entire western slope of the Sierras, we see decreased groundwater resources over that period of time, again from 1985 to 2021. I'd like to point out that in 2006, the population of Reno was 212,000 people. To date, in 2022, the population of Reno is 523,000 people. This is more than double the population just within the city of Reno. And again, as stated by the Kavanaughs, these well sites are not for the sole purpose of providing water to 200 new homes at this said future development just across the street from where I'm sitting right here. Again, if the board approves these well sites, you're approving not only pumping of groundwater from 1,000 feet out of these wellheads. So these wells are at 1,000 feet. Most of the domestic wells in this area are 200 feet, maybe 300 feet. There's a couple people that have had to re-drill their wells already because their wells dried up. Some neighbors just to the north of me, before they bought the house, the well was re-drilled because it was so shallow that they were starting to run out of water. So again, this is going to draw down water in this region. It's going to result in hundreds of residents in this Callahan area being without water and being forced to spend more money than they've already spent to drill new wells, drill deeper, or to spend money to tie into the municipal water supply. So I oppose this, and I hope the board opposes it as well.
Thank you. I have no further hands raised via Zoom.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back to the board for discussion. Before we do that, can I have the representative come to the podium? I have a point of clarification I need. My question is if this SUP is approved, which is the construction of the 2 well houses, is that the final step, and then once that's done, you can actually pump water, or are there secondary steps after that that you would need to approval or authorization?
Right. I'm going to refer to John Enlow on the process for that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. John Enlow, Director of Natural Resources for Truckee Meadows Water Authority, for the record. So you were just asking about the process. I mean, this special use permit allows for the construction of the well buildings and equipping of the wells and so forth, but there are substantial other improvements related to the development of the subdivision itself that the applicant would have to undertake before these wells would be connected to the system. I believe this is just one of many conditions of approval on the tentative map required for them to obtain a final map and start development. So this one action, it's not going to be connected to the system based upon your approval of this particular action.
So approval of the building of the well houses will not indicate that actually we will be starting to pump water from these wells, is that correct?
That's correct. It'd be related more with the timing of the construction of the development because we would need power, we need water lines to connect to Callahan, natural gas for heating and so forth.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other question for this gentleman, Mr. Stanley?
One more for Mr. Inlow.
Is there another, just kind of piggybacking on this last question, is there another permitting process that is required to actually start pumping water?
So once the wells are constructed, we go through a process with the state NDEP, both Division of Water Rights and the Drinking Water Branch, where they approve this as a new source of supply to our water system. So for Tumwa's perspective, those are the only other approvals that would be needed. And they're pretty much build the facilities according to plans and specs, check the box, and you're good to go.
Thank you.
On that, going back to that point, it's at what point going forward will anyone be looking at, is there sufficient water in this area to justify the development of this source? And at what point would that be? At what point, like when they're building the subdivisions, that will be something I think a lower level analysis than this. Has that analysis already been done in 2006 and that's not going to be revisited? That's just my question of when, and I think it gets to the issue of the permitting. At what point is that big picture going to be looked at, or is it going to be looked at again?
Sure. No, I'm glad you asked the question, and I respect the concerns of the people on Callahan Ranch Road. So for full disclosure, I am a resident of Callahan Ranch since 1994 on a domestic well. My property address is 5400 Brookmeadow Lane. I live about 300 feet to the north of Galena Creek, just to the north of this project. So also there was a comment raised about a study that was done in 2002 that identified that there were not sufficient groundwater rights to support the development on the Mount Rose fan. And that is an accurate statement. I actually was the engineer in charge of that study as a consultant for Washoe County at the time. And we were the ones that quantified, okay, there is a significant problem up here with municipal well pumping and impacts to domestic wells. I think all of the residents of Callahan Ranch were well aware of that. There were dozens of wells that needed to be re-drilled and deepened because of municipal pumping in the early 2000 timeframe, even to present. That was the impetus of the domestic well mitigation program that they referred to. Washoe County implemented that program, I believe, 2010-ish timeframe. When Tumwa took over the water systems from Washoe County in 2015, we also adopted that program, and it basically compensates well owners, not 100%, but a large percentage if they need to deepen their domestic wells or connect to the municipal water system. I know it's a long answer, but I want to get there to try to alleviate some of the concerns of my neighbors. So Tumwa took over the system in 2015. Tumwa immediately, we knew there was a big problem up there, and that was really one of the reasons, one of the benefits of the merger was Tumwa could bring other resources to bear to try to mitigate the problems up there with the groundwater pumping that Washoe County independently could not do. So in mid-2015, we implemented new water rights dedication requirements. One of the commenters referred to Whites Creek, and I'll get to that in a minute, but we do require additional dedication of Whites Creek surface water. In 2016, a letter was sent out to 8,500 residents of the Mount Rose Fan, including Stemgid. So it was basically from Montrose, St. James Village, Callahan, all the way down to around Rayleigh's and so forth. We notified 8,500 people of, okay, we've got a big problem up here. Here are Tumwa's plans, what we're going to do over the next several years to try to mitigate this problem. And so that was the start of an effort that we've been undertaking for the last 6 years. It's still ongoing. We recently completed the construction of the Mount Rose Water Treatment Plant, which is on the north side of Mount Rose Highway along Callahan Ranch Road. It takes water out of Whites Creek, treats that water, and puts it into the distribution system, which serves that entire area. So physically, even though that water's on the other side of the highway, we've got a piping network that can distribute that water all over the Mount Rose Fan, from the top of Arrow Creek into St. James Village. So our plan is to, just like the commenter stated, we want to minimize groundwater pumping up there to the extent practical to recover groundwater levels. Since we have taken over the system in 2015, groundwater pumping has been reduced by approximately 40% from when it was just a county system and that was all they had to rely on. We've seen regional water levels recover anywhere from 10 to 30 feet. We have implemented, so Tumwa has a groundwater recharge program as well, something we've been doing since 1993 down in the valley here. We've equipped 3 wells up on the Mount Rose Fan for recharge. So this time of year in the winter, when demands are down and the wells are typically shut off, we take water from Whites Creek and or Truckee River water. We also have the ability now to pump Truckee River water all the way up into that system, shut the wells off, recharge the wells to help bring the water table back. So, like I said, I sympathize 110% with my neighbors on Callahan Road. No one in the area wants to see that property developed. But that being said, with my Truckee Meadows Water Authority hat on, I can confidently say that the water supply situation is being addressed. We've invested $40 million in improvements to mitigate that situation. Is it back to where it was 20 years ago? No. It's going to take time to recover the water levels up there, but we are doing everything that we can do to minimize groundwater pumping, rely on surface water when it's available, recover groundwater levels, and be very cognizant of the domestic well owners in the area to minimize any disruptions to them. And I just want to state for the record and my neighbors in the back, I mean, I would be happy to meet with them personally anytime. They could come to Tumwa's office, We've got one of the premier groundwater modelers in the state of Nevada, and we could share all the information that we have available to them. Like I said, I just, from a water supply standpoint, that's not an issue that's going to really be a negative associated with this project, with all the investment and resources that TUMWA is applying to this effort.
Okay. Mr. Enlow, thank you very much for your input. And actually, I wanted to give you a little bit more time to talk on this. Bear in mind that this board is here today to look at and vote upon approving 2 well structure houses, facilities. That's all we are, that's our responsibility. But by affording you additional time to go ahead and at least clarify some of that, or at least offer up some clarification as to the actual water issues up there, we appreciate that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, bringing it back to the board. Any other discussions, any further discussions on this matter? Mr. Stanley.
Mr. Chair, to kind of underscore what you just said, our brief is to rule on seeing whether or not the findings have been met with any additional conditions on building 2 block houses. All other issues are, pardon the pun, downstream.
Yes, the actual issues of water itself is beyond our purview. We are here basically with what is in front of us, and that is the construction of 2 well houses and the associated infrastructure that goes with that. That is what we need to make a decision on today.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Christensen.
For the record, Don Christensen. Mr. Enlow, thank you very much for, I won't say concise, but thorough analysis on this. Sitting on this board, I cannot, and I agree with what our chairman has said, and the fact that it's not our job to say, excuse me, say yay or nay about water, but I have 4 very articulate and well-read members of the community who have very compelling arguments against doing this. So I'm inclined, I hear you, and I empathize with you, but I think I'm going to have to go with the established rules. This project, it's gone on a long time. It's met the approval standards, and I don't think it's careless. But for the record, I do hear your concerns, and I'm really torn on this. But for my colleagues, I think we're going to have to go ahead and approve this based on its merits. But that's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Julian.
I would agree with what my colleague has said just now. I would though also ask perhaps for the staff in the future, when we have things like it references TMWA studies have shown that wells will not adversely affect, it would be helpful to have more information on that, more elaboration on that, some citations, something along those lines. And that would be helpful from the perspective of the community, so that they could see what is behind that statement, because that I think that would be useful. And yeah, I think, and then on the issue of the monitoring wells, is there any thought on when those monitoring wells are going to be done? Does anybody, and what is the significance of having those monitoring wells?
Yeah, John and Logan, for the
Thank you.
record. That is a requirement of the state engineer, and I believe they do need to be in place prior to pumping those wells.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I just step in here real quick. I concur with the members up here of the board. I also am concerned with, of course, the water and the growth of the area. I do know that Tumwa has made efforts to replenish the aquifers. I know back in 2016, they came before this board to redirect water out of Whites Creek and Thomas Creek to refill the aquifer because of the well situation. So at least to that extent, you've been proactive and you're evaluating things that are happening. You know, growth is inevitable. I don't have the answers to that, and I sure don't have the answers to all the, you know, how we're going to get all the water in the future. But with that being said, again, back to the board. Any further discussion on this specific item?
Mr. Chair, I do want to underscore and appreciate Mr. Inlow's offer to meet with his neighbors and discuss this issue further. We don't see that often enough, probably.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion. Well, I see that no one's in a hurry to step forward. I don't blame you all, but I will tell you what, I will take on this one. I move that after given the reasoned consideration of the information contained in the staff report and the information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Board of Adjustment approve the condition special use permit case number WSUP 22-0026 for QC LLC with the conditions included as Exhibit A in this manner, having made all 5 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code Section 110-810-30, that being consistency, improvement, site suitability, issuance not detrimental, and no effects on a military installation. Is there a second?
Question.
Yes. Mr. Stanley.
Mr. Large, do we need to make special mention of the additional conservancy condition?
We can put the condition, you can, with the added condition that they do the all evergreen trees. If that, you want that included in your motion, we can do that.
I will amend my motion to include that for the landscaping project, that it be all evergreen type of trees.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
in addition to that, the natural hues of the stucco look exterior.
Okay, in addition that the paint on the buildings be of a natural color of its surroundings.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I would like to second that motion.
Mr. Stanley seconds the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on. Number 9, chair and board items, non-action items. We have A, which is future agenda items. Do we have any future agenda items? Seeing none, great. We'll move on to item B, which is request for information from staff. And at this moment, I would like just to step in and take a moment. I learned today that Lacey is leaving us, or technically has left us, but she is here today assisting. And I just wanted to say on my behalf, and I believe on behalf of the board, we've really appreciated all that you have done for us. It has been a pleasure working with you, and we wish you all the best of luck in the new job that you've decided to take on.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you, actually. With that, directors and legal counsel items, report on previous Board of Adjustment items. Mr. Lloyd?
Nothing to report on, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Large, legal information and updates.
Nothing from legal.
Okay. Mr. Stanley, go ahead.
I know that unless I missed the bouncing bull, we had asked for
You'd ask for
stats on
reversal rates and those things. We haven't been able to compile that at this point, but we will get that on a future agenda.
Okay. And then there was some, what's a nice word for umbrage, taken around the idea of further asking how many of those that were overturned were represented by council.
We can endeavor to find that information, but that's going to be difficult.
Just by hand. They're either represented or they're not, right?
We'll endeavor to get that information.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stanley, over what kind of a period are we looking at? 2-year period, was that?
Actually, I'm piggybacking off a request from at least a year ago that our chair made, and that was, we noticed that a lot of when we denied something, that it was oftentimes overturned. And I think, I want to guesstimate that it was 82% the last time I checked. And we were wondering if that stat had changed and whether or not we needed to do something better on our end, or if there was something else afoot.
Okay, so if we go back 2 years, would that be sufficient?
Yeah, Mr. Lloyd, 2 years would be sufficient as far as I'm concerned, and then maybe in the future, at the end of every year, we also get an update for the end of that year. So we would kind of have either we'd keep a running total or at least know. So if we can at least go back 2 years now, and then maybe from January 1st, we set the clock to zero again, and then we just know all the cases that we heard that may have been overturned.
Mr. Chairman, may I get a clarification on something?
Yes.
Is part of the question would be denials when the staff recommended approval, or denials when the staff denied, we denied, and then it was overturned? Because I think that's an interesting question to me.
I am looking at it not so much from what staff recommended and the direction that we took. What I am looking at is if this board made a denial and it was then appealed to the Board of County Commissioners, what was the results of that? Did they overturn our position, or did they agree with that? I think that's what I would like to see from the chair position. I think that'll give us a better idea of how we are all collectively doing, and whether maybe a future meeting needs to be met with the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners for further clarification on issues.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I rather agree with the suggestion that we see if we've gone along with the guidance of planning and it's overturned, versus if we have taken a different direction and it's overturned, because that includes more kids in the process. And all of those things will help us do our job better.
Yeah, we can put something together, no problem.
We can do that, but I'd just like to go on record saying staff makes just a recommendation. And they may recommend to deny, but it is up to the board to independently to decide whether things are met or not. So it really isn't us supporting or denying staff, because staff has not actually made a hard decision and then we have overturned it. They are only giving us their input as to why they think it shouldn't meet that, and then we as an independent board make that decision. The difference being is that when we make that decision and it gets appealed to the Board of County Commissioners, if they either support or they overturn, those are more hard and fast decisions. So,
Mr. Lloyd and I will work together to put together that list for you. I would make this comment, though, without prolonging this for too much further. This is an independent board, and this board should not be influenced one way or the other in what is potentially going to happen with the Board of County Commissioners. This board needs to make, and it is its duty to make an independent decision, not relying on what is going to happen down the road. And I would also comment that while denials may be appealed, approvals are rarely appealed to the Board of County Commissioners. So what the statistics are going to tell you are that, yes, you're going to get reversed, but that's only because that's all that is going to be, is being seen. They're only seeing denials from this board.
If I may.
Mr. Stanley?
You know, Mr. Large, and to address that issue, I was, in watching the BCC meetings, I've seen more than once what they do to overcome to grant the appeal or the acceptance is further condition the product or project. And so that I would find interesting, because we're seeing that they say, for an example, we had denied something, then it's accepted with additional conditions coming from the BCC. So that's the reason, that's another thing I think we may see. When I said we may learn something, that's what I was hoping, that's what I was personally hoping to learn. Where was there conditioning in place that, I don't want to say we missed, but we missed?
I recognize that. I don't want to turn this into an open meeting law violation when we start discussing something that's not on the thing, but we'll get that, endeavor to get that information before you on a future agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Large, that's appreciated. And I believe we already asked for legal updates, did we not?
Yeah, nothing from legal.
Nothing from legal, okay. Madam Secretary, any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Thank you, we are adjourned.